guess I can move over. Craig's just far over, but I can just move over. Give Nicholas some room. Don't move. You're good. You're good. You're good. I moved already.
He's in me now.
Again? You guys need to cut that out.
Never.
We ready?
Yep.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Press X Podcast, episode 92, your weekly podcast for gaming news and opinions coming at you each and every Monday at noon Eastern. I am Kevin McManus. With me, Craig Johnson.
Hey.
Nick Hassell.
We are really close to 100.
We are. I'm excited. It should be an interesting show or a train wreck, depending on how it goes. I've been messing with the audio. You may notice that the audio sounds different. You may not. I don't know what I'm doing. We're going to figure it out by episode 100.
If I sound terrible, it's all on Kevin.
I always sound good, so.
All right. Not much news this week. So I feel like this segment is going to be very much a question that we have that'll take a little while to answer that I'm excited for. And the what we've been playing is probably will fill out a lot of the show. These are a hint. It's probably the thumbnail topic. Never mind. They already figured it out. That doesn't work very well.
Surprise.
Spoilers.
Damn it. So let's start off with what we've been playing. Craig, you were very excited to tell me I was going to be mad at you. So what have you been playing?
So Kevin has been telling me that I really, really need to play Nier Automata a lot. And I said, okay, Kevin, fine. I'm going to do it.
You sent me a picture?
I'm going to play this game.
You sent me a
Sent
picture?
Kevin a picture of the title screen, to which his response was, oh, baby.
That's true.
And then
Fact check confirmed.
I started playing it, and I liked it. It was cool, and they killed off a lot of my friends right in the beginning, which I felt like was pretty depressing. Well, then anyway, so I started playing the game. I thought it was pretty good. I beat the first test boss thing to get you started.
Prologue.
And then I got to the first boss, died pretty quickly, and went, yeah, I don't like this. I'm going to stop. And then I stopped playing it.
What boss did you die
on?
on?
Arms.
Oh, the actual prologue boss.
Yeah, that. I didn't like
You didn't
that.
finish the prologue.
Nope. Quit.
Craig.
So, I think I played a successful 15 to 20 minutes of that game.
The demo of that game is longer than what you played.
So technically, I gave up on the demo.
Did you play on normal?
Yeah. Probably should have knocked it down.
Drop it down to easy and just play it.
Yeah,
on easy, you can set it to auto dodge and auto attack, and it just fights it for you. It's stupid, but you can do it.
Maybe I'll just do that for the bosses.
You can change it on the fly, I think.
Yeah, you can just pause it and change it.
Well,
I don't
anyway.
know about in combat, but you can definitely pause it or do it.
So anyway,
before.
that was one of my things. Other than that, I haven't really played too much. What else did I touch on? I really think that's about it. I turned on Samus Returns for 3DS.
I thought you were playing Earthbound.
I've been doing a lot of stuff around my house. I haven't had a lot of time between work and gym and stuff. This coming week, I'm gonna have a lot more time and a lot more availability. So.
And then Mario comes out, and it doesn't matter.
Pretty much, yeah. Oh,
okay.
There's no way I'm finishing Earthbound with Mario. It's just not gonna happen. I am excited to hack my SNES Classic probably right after I get home from this or tomorrow, and I'll add Chrono Trigger on there.
There we go.
And then not play it.
And then not play it. Yeah. And then Mario comes out.
At least you'll have it.
Yeah.
Nick, how about you?
I played and beat Danganronpa V3.
Oh boy.
Not going to say much of anything because I'm going to spoil the rest of your experience and everyone else's if I say anything.
Spoilers, there's a bear.
There's a bear, confirmed. I'm going to talk about it. I like where it's going. I think I'm starting to like it less than the other ones. There's the problem with me with Danganronpa is that the gameplay and the story don't mesh very well. A lot of games that do that alternating thing like Persona, where it's like one half visual novel, one half whatever, something else. Catherine does it, and Virtue/Reward does it.
One half sweet jazz.
Yes, that is Persona. I feel like the Trials gameplay it's trying to tell you a really interesting story, and like there's a really cool murder mystery story that you're trying to figure out, and then sometimes you're just like up against a wall shooting stuff, and you're like, I don't know. I can't. I'm right. I know this makes sense, but the game logic wants you to figure it out a different way or go a different route. And the worst problem is when I know the answer to something and it takes you 45 minutes to get there. And there was a case that I literally knew up until the last 10 minutes of.
Yeah.
But there's no like prompt that says answer this question and you can skip this section if you already, you know what I mean? Like
that would be
that's
more intuitive if you already had a very good inkling as to who the person was, how they did it, where they did it, when they did, whatever. And you could just be like, look, here's what I think, and you skip this big chunk.
See, I just think
and if you fail that, then you have to go back and
right,
answer the steps.
I think it just needs at the beginning of each section you can pull up a question sheet. Similar, basically, there's a driving mini game where you get asked a question, you have to pick the answer.
Yeah.
Basically, like the questions for that, and if you can answer them all, you can just move on to the next section. And if you can't, it becomes, ooh, how is that not true? Well, let me see how this story plays out. But if you figured it out, it's annoying to sit through it when you've already figured it out and you're just kind of going through the motions.
That's false.
But that's just a Danganronpa thing in general. The problem, this one is just the trials are so long and everything that sometimes it takes them a really long time to get to the point. And I'm like, oh man, I already knew that.
Yeah, it feels like the last 2 or 3 are like 2 to 3 hours each.
Specifically in the one that I just finished before, I knew everything except for one thing in the whole trial, and the trial took me 2 hours. I'm like, I know everything. This sucks.
Maybe just more control of the trials, because it sounds like it's like whoever speaks first and then they say, well, let's talk about this, instead of you just being like, okay guys, I'm the smart person here. Or that's
another I almost wish there wasn't a main character to the game, that you kind of followed their perspective. I almost wish whenever somebody was talking, you kind of jump to that person, and each person has their own mini game for figuring things out. And then that, it would make it feel a lot less lecture-y, where it is one person who's like, I know everything, you guys argue, and then I'll clean up and tell you what's actually going on. So, but as far as the story and stuff goes, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I'm liking where it's going. We'll see. But I'll be done with it by next week for sure. I feel
I'll talk about it more then.
I don't know.
I feel like
That's
I'm pretty
what we
close.
heard last week, and you still didn't finish.
I'm close.
I'm just giving you
I'm
a hard
close. I probably could have finished it, but I just didn't.
I doubt it. Not at your
Really?
pace.
I mean, if I didn't play these,
well,
I'm pretty sure I could have finished it.
Like I said, the last few trials are really long too. But yeah, I'll talk about it more once you finish at least. But I did also play and beat Cuphead. It was not very fun to beat it. It was kind of a grind. The last 5 to 6 bosses were interesting in difficulty, and like I said, I'm not really built for these types of games. I don't play them too much, but like the aesthetic of the game and the soundtrack and all that stuff just made me want to keep playing. And when you're that close to beating something, like, I don't know, you just kind of buckle up and go for it, regardless of how tough it is. But it was fun, despite difficulty spikes here and there. Really enjoyed beating it. Really, like a sense of fulfillment, I guess. Like, hey, it's like a notch on the bedpost sort of thing. Because I don't typically play challenging games except for Crash. And things like that, so.
I'm interested when I start playing that game, whenever that may be, because from what I've seen of it, it doesn't really look very hard.
I've watched a few boss battles on YouTube, and I beg to differ.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Well,
look
like I
hard
said, if you're not used to this genre, then it can be.
Well, part of my thing, I don't really want to play it with an Xbox controller because I want the D-pad for something like that.
Oh, sure.
And I'm thinking about getting it on PC so I can use my PS4 controller to do it because I have an actual D-pad.
It's $20.
Apparently, a physical copy's coming out or something.
Talking about it.
Saw that on Twitter. Confirmed.
But what is it, collector's edition? What was the tweet?
They basically said, we have plans to do a physical release in the future. And they put in parentheses, collector's edition, etc. So I think we'll probably get a regular edition and a collector's edition.
Yeah, that's been happening a lot with some games like Friday the 13th. Their collectors, but their physical editions coming out in a week.
I just ordered a combo pack for PS4 of Inside and Limbo.
Yeah, like games like that, it seems like they wait a little bit. I don't know.
Kind of wish that game would go down like the Castle Crashers route and just keep adding more cup men, I guess, and different skins and stuff like that, and maybe a couple bosses here and there, and then release all that in one
I think that the way
package.
they've structured that game, they can definitely easily
Yeah.
do DLC and do like a second story, especially where it starts and it's like a storybook or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They can easily just add in like new chapter. That'd be sweet.
But yeah, awesome game. Glad Xbox finally kind of has one to talk about, even though it's a
fair.
fairly short game. But price point's right for it. Time of the year's right for it, at least within the next 2 weeks if you can play it. That's when it all kind of goes downhill as far as if you like Mario, if you like Evil Within, if you like Destiny PC, if you like Assassin's Creed, like whatever. All of this stuff's hitting soon, so this would be a good time
But
to play
mostly Mario. Yeah.
if you say so. But yeah, those are my two big ones, and I'll have one this next week once we get into new releases to talk about.
Interesting. I only have 3 games on the new release sheet, and I just added one because there was only 2.
Trace.
I've been playing a lot of Fortnite. A lot of Fortnite.
A lot of people have been playing a lot of Fortnite.
Yeah, they hit 7
7
million players. Yeah, that game's really fun, and their team is so big that they're able to throw out these updates fairly quickly, which is nice because it's the Epic team. So they added the supply drops, they added the duos, which is great. I got second place in a duos match. I was very upset about it because I didn't realize that the longer the game goes on, so basically the storm closes in on one area of the game, and at the start of the game, if you're in the storm, it only does 1 damage to you, like over time. At the end of the game, it starts doing like 25, and you only have 100 health, obviously. So somebody shot a rocket launcher at a building I was building, so I like backed into the storm to walk around to the other side, and I died almost instantly as soon as I touched the storm, and I was like, oh, didn't know that. Second place. So that was unfortunate. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that game, and they're starting to balance it, and I imagine they're going to start adding in some more silly weapons like they have in the single player, or I guess it's still multiplayer, but the normal version of the game, the survival version of the game. So that'll be cool. Enjoying that a lot.
I know the honest answer is that it's Epic and they just do well with all their products for the most part, but I still like to think how funny it is that like all this press that they got from PUBG
helped
just made it
I
explode.
probably wouldn't have even noticed. Well, that and their big thing is then they were like, and it's free to play now.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, oh, well, I guess I'll download it. That was huge. So obviously I've been playing a lot of RuneScape, probably more than anything else. Doing very well in that. Got my favorite armor set. So I'm excited.
Nerd.
Got my Guffins. I think I'm going to play that for another maybe 2 weeks, and then I'm probably going to hang up that until it's coming to mobile in December time. It's becoming a full mobile game. And
That seems like it would be too many buttons on mobile.
no, it's a perfect mobile game. Oh, it's only
Really?
clicking. There's no anything
Yeah,
else.
I wouldn't worry
the game is
about-
only clicking.
I wouldn't worry about the control scheme. I would worry about my phone battery.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's fair.
So I'm excited for that. So I'm basically just getting everything ready to wait for the mobile thing to come out, and then when that comes out, I can just never stop playing it. I played Chibi Robo Ziplash, which is a game that I picked up for like $3 or $4 on sale the other day, and I figured out why it's $3 or $4. It's not great. It is a side-scroller puzzle game. I like a lot of things about it. You basically have a electric cord plug as your weapon, so it's like a whip, like Castlevania. But you can also jump and spin it and use it as like a helicopter. You can also use it to bounce or like as a lasso to grab things and pull things, and you can plug it into something and then kind of like bungee jump and climb up. And there's a lot of cool applications. The problem is, one, the game is clearly meant for a younger audience, so it's fairly easy. And then the biggest problem with it is at the end of each level, there's a roulette wheel that tells you how many spaces you go. So think about Mario. Your world 1-1 is where you start, and then there's like 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, up to 1-8 or whatever. There's a wheel that spins, and if it lands on 2, you move 2 spaces. So then you do world 1-3. And then if it hits 1, you do world 1-4. And all that's fine and dandy, except if you land on a world you've already done, you have to do it again to spin the wheel again. And the whole thing is you can buy new panels to put onto the wheel, so you can make it all ones.
In-game money?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the thing for
Okay.
grinding the levels.
Nintendo Chibi Robo with microtransactions.
That's where they get you. So you can that's the incentive to do the same level again, is that you can afford the panels to do that. Just make it like a normal game. Just go in order. It was a cool idea, but as soon as you have to do the same level multiple times, you're like, nope.
Or at least make it reroll.
This isn't fun. Yeah, there is things that do that. Like at the end of a level, there's a bronze silver and gold idol, and you can like hit one of them, and if you hit the gold one you get like 3 spins. If you hit the silver you get 2, and if you hit bronze you only get 1. So like there's stuff like that, but once again, as soon as you get 2 in a row of having to do the levels that you've already done, you're like, I'm done.
Yeah, I bought that in a combo pack with the amiibo for like $10. So I'm about in the same boat
amiibo's
you
great.
are. Yeah,
I don't know what it does.
I don't know either.
I don't know how to scan an amiibo on the 3DS. I was like,
you just set it like on the bottom screen.
and nothing happens. So
I think you literally just set it on the bottom screen.
I don't know. Maybe you need to go into the settings to activate it. I don't know what it does.
Who knows?
And I'll never find out because I'm not playing it anymore. But it was cute. If one came out for the Switch, I'd look into it. I would want it to be more difficult, though. And then my big one, I guess, was the Star Wars Battlefront 2 beta. I played it. Man, did I not enjoy this at all. This was, I mean, if you like Star Wars Battlefront 1, I guess you'll probably like it. But it was just more of that. It felt super mindless. It never felt like there was any, you never felt great for doing well or bad for doing bad, because you just die and you respawn right away and you're just rushing back into whatever it's telling you to do. Like, get into the throne room. There's just armies of people dying and running into the throne room.
Yeah.
And once in a while, Darth Maul shows up. And you shoot him a couple times. And you're like, oh, cool. Like, I don't know. It just didn't do it for me. So it sold my thought that I already had, which is I'm not going to get this game, and I'll just get it when it's super cheap and play the story, because that's what I actually care about. I don't know, but it's weird. This year I've been playing a lot more multiplayer games. I played Fortnite, played Friday the 13th, played Splatoon. Like, I've been playing a lot more
Uncharted.
Uncharted, yeah, a lot more multiplayer than I normally do. But then I go to that and I'm like, this is exactly the multiplayer I don't like. I don't know what the difference is, but this is the multiplayer where I'm like, the Call of Duty, just like same map over. At least in Call of Duty, like when you're doing well, you feel like you're doing well. And this one, I didn't feel that.
Well, I even just watched you play downstairs a little bit so you could show me. And one thing I thought was interesting
It's
was
repetitive.
There's the point system where every time you kill something, you get points, and you can spend those points to become like Darth Maul or Rey or whoever. But like me and you were talking about, that literally only rewards the best team.
Yeah, the team who's getting the most points then gets Darth Maul and Boba Fett. And the team who's getting...
It's a win more?
Yeah, the team who's doing the worst doesn't get, Rey and Han Solo. So I would have rather it been like more either like Metal Gear Solid 4's online, which was awesome, where one person on the team just gets to play as Vamp or Raiden or Snake, and they get to play at that game, and every match one player gets picked.
Or like how Friday the 13th, one person's Jason. It just picks somebody. Or like when a phase ends, the next phase, it's like, oh, your team's falling behind. Rey has shown up to help this, right? And then Rey is in it for that phase, and then she goes away, and the next phase, Han Solo shows up to help you. Like, the way it is now does feel like, okay, Darth Maul's charging it. Okay, I killed him, but they have 20 people on their team who have enough points to buy Darth Maul, so you're always going to see Darth Maul for the rest of the match now. It was just a little much. Yeah. So, I don't care.
I think it sounds like you like multiplayer games where you as a one person can have a greater impact. Like Fortnite, if you play well, I mean, you can just have a greater impact. If you play Friday the 13th, whether you're a counselor or Jason, one person can have a huge impact, whether you're putting stuff into the car, build it,
by
and
yourself.
take off.
You can escape by yourself. Yeah, I guess that's
whereas
fair.
Battlefront, one person can't really carry a match, but 2 or 3 or 4,
that's
like
fair.
You need the people talking to each other.
Even
Otherwise,
Call of Duty, like I like the Call of Duty. I don't play them anymore because I know I'll never stop.
Yeah.
So I haven't played them in years and years and years. But yeah, even that, it's like the Uncharted is my Call of Duty basically.
Yeah, and it feels like at least you, because you played that over and over and over. It seemed like you were kind of on top of your game there and could win the game even if you had crappy teammates. Like, it
sometimes
didn't matter.
if it's a death match, If it's an objective, it's like, please go to the hell.
Battlefront is clearly a game where you need to be on Discord or PSN or Xbox Live, depending on where you're playing at. But you need to communicate to people.
There's like 64 people or something. I'm like, this is too much. And
too
you
much.
die, you just come right back. It doesn't feel like there's a consequence. I don't know.
Because it feels like if you run with your little pack of dudes and you go hit this area, take everyone out over here, run over here to this point, take them out. Like, if you travel as like a pack, then you're fine. But if you're just one person running towards the hill,
you're angry.
Yeah.
You die in Uncharted, you're sort of angry. You die in this game, you're like, can't wait to respawn in 2 seconds. Anyway, so that's what I've been playing. But yeah, I'll finish up Danganronpa this week, and I don't know what I'm going to hop into after that. I'll have to figure it out.
Maybe I'll play 10 more minutes of that other game.
I doubt it.
Beat the demo.
Let's move into the news. Like I said, not too much news, and on top of that, it's not very exciting. Pretty PlayStation heavy, actually. But so PlayStation VR headset got a new model announced. This is more similar to like how PlayStation once in a while they'll take some components out of a console and put in new ones, and it's technically a different model of the PlayStation, even though nothing really changes. It's more similar to that, though they did something that makes me a little mad. First off, a big complaint about the PlayStation VR is with, and I'm going to screw this up, so you can fix it as I screw it up, the HDR on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an HDR bypass thing. Yeah. And if you have the headset plugged into your TV cannot use HDR. And that was like a big oversight, apparently, that they had. This one allows that. Yeah. So that's kind of the big change.
The reason for them doing that.
Yeah. Okay. The processing box is slightly better. Their problem with that is that they changed the cords to plug the headset in. So you can't just buy a new processing box and upgrade. You have to get the new headset too. Yeah. And that's the problem. They have, I mean, maybe they'll do it now, but they had a model where you could just buy a new box and never need a new headset. Mm-hmm. And they screwed it up on the first upgrade. So good job on that.
They seriously need to have some sort of trade-in program. Mm-hmm.
If they're not going to make it compatible, for sure.
Yeah, because pretty much in all ways, shapes, and forms, this is just an inferior model. Mm-hmm. And it sort of sucks because the people that are still playing PSVR are probably the ones who bought it in the first wave.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like, not that we demand it or have like a right to it, but I feel like they ought to kind of reward the people that have been playing with that for a while by saying, hey, we'll send out this information, we can email it to you, whatever, fill this out, put it in a box, ship it to us, and we will give this new version to you for X dollar amount, which is substantially lower than...
It's just like a giant middle finger to all the people who made PSVR like relevant.
Yeah, like I don't think it's I don't care that I'm happy that they're doing a new model because I want more people to get it and I want it to be in the news again and all that stuff. But just make the old headset compatible with the new box. Like that doesn't seem like that much.
Do
of an
something.
ask.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Next up, we'll stick with some PlayStation news. PlayStation 4 Update 5.0 is out. They added a bunch of nothing that I care too much about. One thing helped me, but they have the 1080p 60 streaming, which is nice.
Yay.
They added some family settings so you can set people into your family and have parental controls over kids and things like that. So all the quality of life things. The friends list, now you can have separate lists in your friends list, which is nice. So I made a list that just has one person in it who is always offline. Like they put their status to offline even though they're online, because in Fortnite you can't invite people who aren't actually online. So I can't invite them to a game of Fortnite unless they're online. So this is a quick way for me. Are they like
hiding from the CIA or something?
They have way too many friends on their list, and if they go online for a minute, they get like 40 invitations. It's really annoying, actually. So they just hide offline a lot. They've added new stuff to the quick menus, and they added the ability to shut off notifications while watching media, such as YouTube or a movie, which is actually really nice because that is annoying. But yeah, for a 5.0 update, not too much crazy going on.
I did think it was kind of weird. Usually updates like what we got here would be like a 4.311 or something. It's just weird that this is their big flagship number update.
And a lot of these things, I mean, not to compare systems, but the Xbox even had those on launch. So it's just kind of like family settings and hide notifications while you're watching media, things like that. So whatever, at least it's there now. But yeah, I don't really see one like big bad thing, because like you said, most big updates there's like a huge feature that everyone's just like, oh my god,
is usually a huge update. It's usually an interface remodel.
To be fair, the 60 FPS streaming is probably a big deal, but not for people like us, I guess. So
that's fair. Next up, we'll stay with PlayStation. Andrew House has stepped down effective immediately, and I just pulled up this because I don't know all the new people's names and their positions. Last year, I think they reshuffled everybody's titles. They didn't actually shuffle the people, but they changed all their titles, so it's a little confusing. But it says PlayStation has a new worldwide boss effective immediately. Andrew House is out as president and chief executive of Sony Interactive Entertainment after 6 years. He has been with PlayStation for 27 years, I believe. So he's been there a very long time. Yeah, and it says that he's being replaced by John Kadura, presently Sony Interactive Entertainment's deputy president. So Hassell will remain on as a director and the chairman of SIE through the years to ensure a smooth transition. So that's a huge, he's been there since the PlayStation 1. So
that's pretty crazy.
We don't know exactly what his game plan, end goal is, where he's going, why. None of that's been revealed, but obviously he's staying there. It's not like
he's
a bad
being
blood
hired
thing.
by Microsoft.
I mean,
he's probably gonna go join Kojima. If I had to guess.
Just his studio.
Kojima Studios presents.
He's just like, I really like those guys.
Yeah.
He was actually the one in the video with Kojima when they introduced him.
Yeah.
So that's funny. But so we don't know exactly what this means. It'll be different not seeing him on stage at shows. That's probably where it'll matter. He's like the first PlayStation experience, I guess. Well, Sean Layton usually does those. But E3, wherever he normally is, when he's not there and a new face shows up.
That's kind of the point of it, is that they just want to get some fresh faces out on the stage.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because, I mean, it's not like he said or tweeted or did anything that was just like, oh, my God,
get rid of him. Get rid of him.
So I feel like he just kind of wants to step out of the spotlight and give someone else a shot, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. Next up, the Atom has been revealed for Injustice 2. We always kind of bring up the Injustice reveal, so I wanted to bring that one up. The Atom is one of my favorite superheroes. Probably top 2, maybe top 1. I really like him. He got like a weird reveal. It was kind of... They did a tournament on the CW for Injustice 2, and that's where they revealed it. But it wasn't a full trailer where they show like his intro, some moves, his super, like
some lines of dialogue.
Yeah, it had a little bit of all of that, but it wasn't the same format as the other one, so that was a little strange. But anyway, he looks cool. I don't know how he's gonna fight. I don't know what his special thing, because they haven't
he gets real small.
actually shown it. Yeah, he does get real small, and I don't know how that's. It seems similar to like the Flash, where the Flash moves really quickly, but it's really only like transitions in between moves where he's moving quick. It's not like he's fast the whole entire match.
Be kind of unfair.
Yeah, and I think the Atom is similar. He goes down to like a pebble size and starts like beating up the people, but I'm sure those are just like grabs and combos. Like that's just what it looks like. And any other time he's just a normal character. I know his super is he shrinks down, punches them in the face, and then like grows huge and punches them. But we only saw snippets of it. We didn't see the full thing. But I can tell by the camera that's the super move. So that's cool. I like Atom. He was clearly one of the avatars in the character
silhouettes.
The silhouettes in the character select screen. So I'm super excited about that. But we haven't seen Hellboy or anything yet, like gameplay. So it's interesting that they chose to reveal this. But I guess it was just for that tournament on the CW.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's on CW.
They just wanted.
He's not on
special.
any of the shows yet, is he?
Yes.
Yeah,
he is. Okay.
He's on Arrow.
Yeah.
Makes sense then.
And Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, and he's been on Flash as well.
Gotcha.
He just kind of shows up. I think the only one he wasn't on was Super. No, he was on Supergirl.
Sounds like they were playing to the audience then.
Crossovers for
everybody. So that's cool. I like Adam, and I'm interested to see how he plays.
Sure. I mean, there's fighting game tournaments every month. I'm sure probably in one of the late fall ones they'll do a Hellboy, maybe around October.
Yeah, I think we'll. I wouldn't
Halloween.
be surprised if they're like Hellboy's out on Halloween's on a Tuesday, right? Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like Hellboy's out on Halloween.
That'd be sweet.
And there still might be one guest character left, so we'll have to see. But
have they put out Raiden yet?
Yeah, he came out.
Okay.
He was the first one out to everybody.
Oh, and then it was Sub-Zero?
Everybody was so happy about it. Yeah, and then it was Sub-Zero. And they said there's no more Mortal Kombat characters. That's been announced. So we know Adam, and then there's 2 more characters. People think it's Spawn still. People not giving up on Spawn. And then one's a girl that looks very much like Enchantress. So I expect it to be Enchantress.
If they wanted to surprise drop anything on Halloween, it should be Spawn.
That'd be sweet.
Internet would blow up.
Next up, the new Splatfest for October 13th has been revealed. It's different.
Spooky.
The spooky Splatfest. It's different in different territories. North America has werewolves versus vampires. Is there any contest to this one? Where are you leaning?
Werewolf.
You're leaning werewolf. How about you?
If we were going off literature, I'd say werewolf, but movies around our time kind of make werewolves look stupid, and vampires look cool. So I'm just going with vampires.
I mean, I go with vampires as well, and I don't even think it's close.
Movies make vampires look cool. Twilight has been out, and it ruined vampires.
You know what?
Yeah, but did you see the werewolf?
I was going to say, you know what it
Made
also
them look
has?
worse.
A werewolf.
Oh, that's fair.
But I would combat Twilight with like Underworld and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Blade.
Kind of bounce out. Oh, yeah. That too.
Yeah, vampires are cool. But, as always, the less popular one, Werewolves, is on Marina's team, so it'll probably win.
Yeah.
So we need to choose werewolf.
And then in Japan, they have Endurance versus Stamina is their Splatfest, so that's a fun one.
Do they not have Halloween in
Isn't that the same thing?
What is Werewolves versus
No.
Vampire?
Endurance and stamina, isn't it the same thing?
That's what the thing said it was.
Huh.
Endurance versus Stamina, and it had a picture of
should've
somebody
been
with the
Strength
dualies
versus Endurance.
and somebody with the umbrella. So,
Whatever.
It should have been like Strength versus Endurance.
hey, I'm just telling you what I saw. And then the Europe one was the toilet paper
That's
over
the best one.
or under, which I actually think would have been a more interesting
Yeah.
Splatfest as well. But here we go. I almost just want to Google the intro to that one and read what Pearl and Marina have to say, because I think that'd be funny. So there you go. October 13th, Splatfest. Maybe for once we can make a team of 4. Probably not.
I brought my Switch and my Splatoons.
So
And all of my amiibos.
I'm sure something will happen.
Now
and
your
we won't
internet
get
will
to
go
it.
out again.
Yeah. Something always happens. Next up, Horizon has a complete edition coming out, which is a little weird to me, but it's coming, I believe, December 5th, and it includes the Frozen Wilds expansion. That was its only piece of DLC.
It's not even out yet.
It's not even out yet, and apparently we're not getting more DLC because this is the complete edition.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Maybe that
only
just
$50
means
though, which is
they're hard at work on a second or like.
Oh,
a
I
spin-off or
guarantee you they
something.
were working on.
I mean,
the
yeah, I
second
knew
one
they
already.
were, but maybe it's. I guess what I'm saying is maybe it's closer than we would have thought. So maybe a 2019, early 2019.
Oh yeah, I fully expect that.
Holiday 2018.
The box art
I
for
don't
that complete
expect that.
edition looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, people. I'm not like I don't hate it. I don't have a problem
Mhm.
with it though. People like freaking out over it, or
It's
like really
pretty.
liking it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess so.
I think it's all right.
Did people not like the box art of the first game or something? They're like,
It was just-
finally.
It was just a little bear, I think, except
no,
the
they're
people-
dinosaurs.
Except if you got Kellen's version, which was all fancy
The
like.
steelbook.
Yeah.
one, yeah. So that's cool. Let's move into the questions, which I'm very excited for. See how this goes. We're going to try and come up with a single answer for each one. If 2 people pick the same thing, obviously that's going to win. But other than that, we can discuss it, and it doesn't really matter that much. Who cares? But we are going to be talking about what games defined each console generation. So we have 8 console generations to work through. Sort of. The first one's a little bit of a given, and some of them are kind of a given. But we each made our own lists, and we're just going to go through and say why we picked it, et cetera, et cetera.
It's basically a mini version of the top 10s that we do, except we're not getting all hardcore about it.
Kind of, yeah.
Mini
Some-
top 10.
So I'm very interested in this. This should be fun.
Top
So
8, I guess.
the first console generation, it was very much the Atari Home Pong console system. That's really the only answer is Pong for that one. I don't think that that's really a question. I can't name another game that came out on anything else at that time. So that we're giving that to the first console generation. But the second console generation includes the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, and the Odyssey. Craig, I'm going to start with you. We'll go this way, then Nick can start the next one, then I'll start the next one. We'll just keep going. What do you got for us?
When I went through this whole list of the different generations, this is the only one I am not very familiar with. Growing up, I never had any of these consoles.
You can get familiar with it right there, baby.
Yeah. Ooh. But you did bring up a couple games downstairs, and when you did, it kind of sparked for me because I've at least heard of some of them.
Interesting.
I will go with my, what are we calling it again? Most influential game?
Define the
Define
generation.
Just because I know what the
Influence
game
is part of
and
it, though.
you brought it up downstairs, I'm going to go with Pitfall
I like it.
for the Atari
2600.
2600.
A fine game, if I
Yes.
do say so myself. One of the only fine games that console has to
I'm
offer.
familiar with it, so it's my answer.
That's fair.
I am going to say Pac-Man.
Ugh.
Oh, no, that wins. I changed my answer.
Uh,
really quick.
That's the worst version of Pac-Man ever.
I know, but Pac-Man is much more influential.
I've got a different answer.
Hold on, maybe I'll go with you then. We'll see.
Well, despite whatever you're about to say, I think it's a bit influential and like halfway influential, but also define the generation. Like who, whether you're talking about old farts now or even kids, like they still know what Pac-Man is. So it really defines what came before this half or of the table.
I'll tell you why I disagree with Pac-Man. Well, I'll wait until I do mine, then I'll tell you why.
It's your turn. So
okay, I picked E.T. because that was the game that caused the crash.
Oh no, I go with Nick.
Oh, hold on, let me finish. That was the game that caused the video game crash and where everybody thought video games were over, and it wasn't until the NES came out a long time later with one particular game where people realized video games weren't a fad. They thought it was just like every other kid's toy. It was just a fad in passing, and E.T. was the game that broke the market, and they literally just buried that game, and it ended the generation. So if I have to pick a game that defined the generation, I would definitely pick E.T.
See, so here's an interesting thing. So I think you two both feel very confident about your answers. I don't care about mine at all. So I guess I'm kind of deciding the vote here.
Sure.
I guess.
Let me say my thing about Pac-Man. Pac-Man was an arcade game already.
That's what I was
gonna say. And they ported it.
Yeah.
A horrible port to the Atari 2600. It wasn't until the NES where we got a good port of Pac-Man. That Pac-Man version is atrocious. People played it. People enjoyed it at the time, but I think as far as defined, I'd pick E.T. There's a documentary about E.T.
It still brought it to every single home that had one of these systems in there, and it defined, I think, the generation of playing games in your home.
I think I'm going to go with Pac-Man, and my reasoning for doing so is that if you were to go to anyone around that who was experiencing games in that time, and you ask them which was a more game defining for that generation, most people would probably say Pac-Man, just on the sense of they're familiar with it. Most people who had this system probably bought Pac-Man.
I have Pac-Man.
Exactly.
I don't have E.T.
Yeah. I'm going to go with
I don't want E.T.
So for our second generation, we're going to go Pac-Man.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Third generation, the NES, the Master System, the Atari 7800. Nick, what do you got?
Super Mario Brothers 3.
Wow. Interesting. Why 3?
I can't lie. Part of this answer is because I think it just is better than the first one. Mm-hmm. But if you take into account sort of, if you want to call it a hub world, but if you take the system of the game and look at how many games have come out since then, that I'm not going to say copycat it, but take inspiration from that game. But it also still has Mario in it. So I feel like whatever answer this ends up being, whether it's mine, Craig's, or yours, like it almost has to include Mario if it's got NES in the rotation of the systems for the generation. And I think you get classic Mario, but you also get all these cool features other than jump, fireball, and grow bigger. Like you get all these cool systems, cool level design, and you get like I said, the hub world. Yeah, I like the tail. And yeah, it just all comes together, whether it's the look of the game, whether it's the soundtrack of the game, whether it's the way the game plays. I just think that's kind of like the stars aligning. And so if you're looking at it from a technical standpoint, whether it's, I think this is a X out of 10, whatever you want to give it. So if you're looking at performance, or if you're looking at just the quality of the game, or just what people talk about now, I think it's Super Mario Brothers 3.
Interesting. So I went from a more historical aspect, clearly.
Yeah.
E.T. crashed the video game console. Everybody thought it was dead. The one that brought it back was Super Mario Brothers, the original Super Mario Brothers. That's the one that people know. Like 3 is a better game, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the one that people know. That's the one that did define what video gaming is to this day, honestly. Because it sure wasn't E.T.
Especially if you go Super Mario Brothers /Duck Hunt.
That was my answer.
Stole it.
I literally put Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt because
Yeah.
I don't think there's any individual person who bought the NES console.
It was a pack-in.
and didn't have that as
Yeah.
their
You know,
main
I
thing.
would argue that, but I'm going to allow it. I'm putting Super Mario
Yeah.
Duck on, and that's going to be all right. I think that's a
Yeah.
fair
Well, yeah,
answer
both of you
to-
chose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. This one was tough for me. The next generation 4,
Was
we
it?
had the Super Nintendo, the Genesis.
Oh, yeah, this was the toughest
You
one.
want to start it off for us?
Yeah, I'm going to start, and I will say. So, like I said, I like picking ones that kind of change the history of,
Sure.
of games, and for that, I went with Super Metroid. This was the first atmospheric game. Literally, you play it nowadays, and it's still just as atmospheric as it was with the music. It has borderline cutscenes in it. The sense of just exploration and like almost a loneliness, I think is, I don't want to say unmatched because I think it's been matched now, but at that time for sure, people were like, wow, look at what games can do. And I guess that's besides E.T., that a lot of my answers are wow, look at what games can do, look at what games can be. This is something we haven't seen before, and it influences everything we'll see after it. So yeah.
Well, yeah,
Metroid.
I feel like that game's a lot like whether you're watching Space Odyssey or whatever you want to call it. But as far as like the Marios, the Pac-Man, the Galaga, all these games are like
the ETs.
real. I wouldn't say that. They're like real bright, flashy, fun. The music's kind of going, so it's kind of upbeat. Whereas this one's
and
really
this one's sad. There's no music for a lot of it.
Yeah.
You just hear like drips. It's like boom, and that's it. It's got a sad kind of scary story to it. Like,
yeah.
It's sweet.
Do you want to go next? Or you wanna
Oh,
go?
it's all you, baby.
So this one, when I was going through these, I really started to go through the list, and I put Mario for a lot of them and then kind of worked my way back through the library. And even though this wasn't super influential for me, I think that this game, I'm going to say, is just very super influential for this time period. And I'm going to go with Street Fighter 2.
Ooh.
I think that was a very, very generation-defining game. I think that a lot of people
really
played it.
Oh, yeah, I know. That is a good answer.
Yeah, I think that really pushed fighting games into a new level. So yeah,
well, I think it also got people in the mindset of, oh, I died, here's a controller.
Yep.
Oh, you died, I'll take it back, sort of thing. Instead of like everybody's friends, like you're inviting someone over so you can kick their ass, using cool characters and stuff like that. So yeah, that's a pretty good answer.
I think
I
that's
didn't
the
even.
answer I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, I didn't
go
think about
there,
that one, but that was a good
even
one.
though I'm kind of the residential fighting game person.
Don't worry, got your back.
I went also in a different direction because I'm like you, Craig. I feel like you could put Mario for every single one of these answers and not be too far off. Just
I think it's into the discussion for
he's just too big.
five.
He's just too big of an icon, I guess.
Yeah.
But despite that, I put Chrono Trigger.
Interesting.
I was thinking that this was sort of the birth period of really good Japanese RPGs. And you can make a case for Final Fantasies in this time period. You can make a case for Dragon Quest in this time period. But Chrono Trigger had Sakaguchi from Final Fantasy. It had Hori from Dragon Quest. And it had Toriyama from Dragon Ball.
And it had Frogman.
And a Frogman. All combined into one game. The game had multiple endings. It was pretty revolutionary for that genre.
Time travel.
There you go.
Spoilers.
You're spoiling a game you haven't played yet.
Oh, I played it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good man. I think that kind of set us off into a new direction as far as, okay, I can play games for longer than 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's not just a take a break, play with some toys sort of thing. I think once we're in this phase, it's a little further beyond, okay, it's just for toys sort of thing. But this is one of those where you're like, wow, I can sink some major hours into this. So,
well, boys, we've reached our
deadlock
tie.
I still stand by Super Metroid personally as my choice, but I think me and Nick both said it best when you did say Street Fighter, and we were both like, oh, yeah, that's a really good answer. So I would be comfortable switching my vote.
There's still people that haven't played Metroid. There's still lots of people that haven't played Chrono Trigger, but I feel like everyone who's like, I've played games before, whether it's just like their dad played with their son sort of thing, or just I've been to an arcade.
It was the first, not the first like arcade in the home thing, but the first fighting game in the home for sure.
But I feel like everyone's put a quarter in the machine, said, screw it, I'll just smack some buttons around.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of knows who like Guile is, Ryu, stuff like that. Like they're pretty recognizable. So yeah, I'd go with this.
I'm fine with Street Fighter.
Nice. Craig wins one.
Craig, you get to start out this next one too.
So
this one was tough for me too.
This one's tough.
I had it down to 3, and I was like,
so this one's
I had it
very
down to
tough
like
for
30.
me. I actually, so for me, I was a big Nintendo 64 person. I had a 64 in my house growing up. I feel a lot of nostalgia for that. I actually never owned a PlayStation 1 growing up, so I was familiar with some of the games later on. I played them when I got a PS2. PS1 games were able to be played on it, backwards compatible, but I still was not involved in that space. So I'm gonna give the Nintendo 64 answer that I came up with, which is definitively and obviously Super Mario 64. I think that is a game that, even though it was a launch title, I think it really not only changed what a lot of people thought of Nintendo and of
What
Mario.
else was a launch title? Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
They have some good launch titles.
But I think that the cool thing is if you look at
Sometimes.
that library, you can think of probably 4 to 5 games right off the top of your head that are Super Mario 64 clones, or games that very much took what Mario 64 came with and ran with it. And I think that just says something, that it kind of developed a roadmap for a lot of other developers.
Yeah, the whole thing was, at the time, there's 3 ways to do 3D. There was like an on-rails 3D system. There was like Crash Bandicoot, which is turn the 2D sideways and run this way. And then there was Mario, which was brand new and something that I don't think anybody really thought of, which is literally just exploring in 3D space.
Third person, like omniscient,
And
I guess.
still don't think any game gets that as good as Mario 64.
Yep. So yeah, that's my answer.
I think I had all these systems. Yeah, I've had a bunch of these. I'm old, so I was able to get some of these things on launch or a couple years after. So I went the PS1 route, and I chose Metal Gear Solid.
That's a good one.
This was a point in gaming history where you could start to do cutscenes. You could start to do story.
You got
pretty
those
deep.
discs.
Yeah.
Can't do that on a cartridge.
You could
3 discs.
you could really jump into story and really like get. I mean, you talked about atmosphere with like Metroid games, but like really just get the full package.
It moves from that to it adds writing.
Yeah.
It adds, voice acting, writing, and cinematic camera angles.
Yeah.
And then
This
obviously
is
you have Kojima
where
doing
I
his-
feel like they start
thing.
making their baby steps in this generation towards like bridging the gap between cool like TV shows, cool movies and stuff like that. Like now it's kind of sort of in the conversation like, oh man, did you see this cool mission I pulled off in Metal Gear Solid? Oh, I never saw this coming or something like that.
To me, this is where it starts to turn off from the kids section and become a more general, teenagers, adults can play Metal Gear Solid and appreciate it.
And you really feel like, I mean, when you're getting the old Nintendo top-down games, you don't really get like a sense of stealth and different kind of ways to play a game like that. And you get all these classic, the noises that it makes if someone gets alerted. You have all these cool scenes where it's taking you out of the game and you're seeing these voiceover conversations between you and other characters, memorable boss fights and areas. And we all know where Kojima and Metal Gear have come since then. So you can kind of see the grounds for that. And, maybe
ground zeros.
That too. And you can kind of see where action adventure games sort of started taking their roots with this game. So that'd be my answer.
I agree. That's my answer.
Nice. Anything to add?
No, I mean, that's why I was kind of chiming in a little bit during it, because I knew that was my answer. But yeah, no, I totally agree. It's basically the thing I talked about with Super Metroid amped up. Like, it is the next stage of the Super Metroid formula. So
For honorable mention for my PS1 game, I did put down Final
Fantasy 7.
Yeah,
That was I was between Final Fantasy 7, Mario 64, and
the only reason I wouldn't do Final Fantasy 7, because I obviously had it too, is that it didn't like reinvent the wheel or anything. Even though I know each Final Fantasy game is a little different, it was probably one of the best games as far as quality, but like as far
visually, it was one of the best too at the time. Now it looks like trash, but at that time,
their arms are like sausage tubes.
I like how our answers so far, like, starting off with Pong or something like that. It's just, back and forth, and you can kind of see the twists and turns between going like a Mario game. Oh, cool. This is something I can play and maybe pass the controller to my friend, or a Street Fighter. Here you go, friend. Let's fight. And now something like this.
Now we're on our own having an experience. So where are we going to go to next? Next is the PS2, Xbox, GameCube, and Dreamcast area. Nick, you get to start us off.
Oh,
there.
baby. easiest answer of the whole thing.
I disagree.
Halo Combat Evolved.
Oh.
Welcome to
I
LAN
agree.
parties. Welcome to LAN parties. Welcome to multiplayer. Welcome to console wars. Welcome to all this stuff that a lot of people who are watching this, a lot of people who would come on this show, and a lot of people our age, like this was
the birth of a lot of new
this
gamers.
was junior high, I want to say, for a lot of people, maybe high school for some people, maybe not that for some of the younger folks, but
or if you're really old, then you were older.
Wise words from a wise man. This was, I don't know, the start of something really, really huge.
First-person shooters on a console that actually work.
Yeah. And just button layout. I mean, I know these days we talk about maybe like a Call of Duty, which might show up in a future answer for some people. Talking about button layout, but just like really making the most out of your controller, because you can do like 12 actions, and there's obviously a limited amount of space with these buttons. So jumping.
So they made the controller this big.
Yeah.
You can deal with
Best controller. But switching between grenades, switching between weapons, doing different stuff, crouching, jumping, all these things just on one button. So they made the most out of the controller and the system, and it was just one of those where, my friend and I 10 years ago, we played Street Fighter, but now I can get my friend, his friend, this whole house of people. Like, we can play 16 players on, a home console. I know by then, PC, you could play more than 16 online with some games. But this is the first time, like, you're ordering Papa John's or whatever local pizza place. You're getting drinks.
Got 2 liters of 20, what is it? Mountain Dew, just a bunch of liters.
Yeah.
More liters
Code
than
Red.
you have room for.
Yeah, just Halo was just so huge. And this is stuff that finally TV shows, too, started, if they had, like, the cool hip guy on the show, they would be like, hey, you played Halo? Stuff like that.
This
so
was the bro dude. The immersion of the bro dude.
For better or for worse, I would say Halo.
You almost said blow dude.
That, too. Halo 2, Halo 1, that's what it was to me. Halo 2, while a better game introduces all the Xbox Live possibilities. Yeah. When you're talking about this stuff, I think the order does matter. Halo 1 coming first before Halo 2 does matter. Halo is the only reason Xbox exists. We would not have an Xbox. Like, that thing was nothing except it got Halo. And then, that is what sparked all the console wars and all that stuff. So I also put Halo as my choice.
Yeah, that's probably why I would say Halo 1, because Halo 1... going from LAN parties and these big 16-person battles, that probably made people start going, hey, we got this internet thing. Everyone's mostly away from dial-up at this point. We're getting broadband. We're getting some pretty fast speeds, at least of that day. How can we go from 16 people here, which is, probably a fire hazard and
to people
health
online
risk.
Calling my mother fat.
Yeah. Like, how can we get this experience on a global scale? Internet. So that's where I would probably stick with 1.
So I put Halo 2 solely for most of the reasons you said.
Yeah.
I think that having the online and it being a little bit more the way that people started to come and play Halo together, I thought that was really important. I did try to a lot of these give 1 to each. And the one I did for PS2, I did Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Ooh.
I thought that was a pretty good notable game of that generation.
Damn, that's a really good. I didn't think about I would pick 3 personally.
Yeah,
but
because 3
that's a
kicked it off.
I think that because I think Halo's really influential.
Man, it is really Halo versus. Oh man, that's tough.
Well, my thing is that we've had
a lot of people play Grand Theft Auto.
That's
too.
tough.
Yeah.
In past.
And talk about
generations,
like violence in video games.
Yeah,
and stuff. Man.
We've had the games where we can play by ourselves for hours and hours and hours.
It's good.
I like how I keep dropping like the truth bombs. I'm like, yeah, but you guys didn't think of this.
I'd still go Halo even with this new information.
No, Halo was what I went with.
Yeah,
that was like my.
Yeah, that was your run. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about the Grand Theft. See, they don't have that much of an impact. Like, I played a lot of GTA 3 and then Vice City, but like that's not something I really think back on that much, and I don't like the new ones very much.
And too, that amount of violence drives some people away. Just before they even buy it, sort of thing. My son's not playing that, sort of thing. So it's probably just more.
So that makes you want to play it more.
Available. Yeah.
That's a good answer, though. I did not think
Yeah.
about Grand Theft Auto. That's a great answer. I was trying to think of, like, classic Sony franchises that might do it.
Yeah.
I think
I
there's
was like,
also going to be...
You got to give it to Halo.
I don't remember when the original Call of Duties came out, but I think there's got to be some push for whenever. I don't remember when the most popular Call
That'll
of
be
Duty was.
Generation 7.
The next one.
Let's move on.
I was never a Call of Duty guy, so I don't know the answer.
Yeah, so Generation 7, the Wii, the PlayStation 3, and the Xbox 360. I went with Journey. And here's why. Because Journey is an indie game, and this was the evolution of indie games taking the scene. This is where they started being a prominent thing, and Journey was the game that broke the major video game publishers to get rid of Best Indie Game. They used to have a Best Indie Game category, and then Journey destroyed it, and it won Best Game for that year, and that's when they took down the wall, and they're like, indie games are no different than regular games. They're all video games. They put it together. So that's my choice was Journey because of how it one, I think it represents indie games really strongly, and two, it was the game that like broke down those barriers of indie game, AAA game. What's the difference? Why can't they just be together?
Cut back 2 weeks ago, I think on this podcast, I was just like, it's getting increasingly hard to tell what's a AAA game and what's not.
How about you, Craig?
I went with Wii Sports because I think that when you're talking about influential and defined a console generation, I think that there are very few games that you can say that everybody's sisters, brothers, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas across every household was playing this together as a group.
Another Nintendo pack-in game.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, that doesn't happen very often, and I think that
isn't this technically the best-selling game of all time?
I think it's number 3.
Yeah, it's definitely, when I saw Wii was an option, that instantly popped in my head. I think that it has to be.
I think it was just passed by GTA 5 recently, actually.
But I thought that it was...
They just needed to release it twice.
I think Minecraft's really high up there. That's the whole thing.
My answer is Wii Sports. All the things that he said.
Interesting. I thought you were going to do COD 4. That's my runner-up is COD 4. So all of a sudden I was like, okay, now I got to debate COD versus Wii, because I know you guys aren't going to go with Journey. Though you did play Journey.
I actually very, very like Journey a lot.
Yeah, it's good. So I was like, man, now I got to pick between COD 4 and Wii Sports. This sucks. Thank you for doing it.
This was the toughest one for me because everything I just said about Halo as far as media presence and TV and movies and stuff outside of video games, on top of this was college time for me, and every single dorm room in my building, Call of Duty all the time. Even people now are just Call of Duty all the time.
I actually think that hurts it. I think if Call of Duty came and went, we'd be picking Call of Duty. But the fact that it's still here and it hasn't evolved that much, and like
same old game, yeah.
There's something about that. We want another Wii Sports.
Well,
like people are like, ooh, the Switch, give us a Wii Sports. And nobody's like, ooh, give us another Call of Duty.
1, 2, Switch.
But I think the Wii in general made it more like, okay, we had the Street Fighters from years ago. We had the, everybody kind of play together sort of thing. But now let's just bring it all in one system. And that's where you get the Mario parties. That's where you get all of these games that are just, hey, everybody, come here, let's play. And Wii Sports is the pinnacle of that. So.
All three, including COD. All three of those are good answers, too. All right. Now, this next one's a little weird because this is the current generation.
This still here.
Wii U, PS4, Xbox One. I actually feel very strongly about my answer, but this is going to be hard to tell until another generation or two passes. Who are we on? Are we on Nick?
I think we're on me.
Nick to start?
You started that last one, didn't you?
I don't know. Yeah, I did. Okay.
Yeah, because I went last.
So this one was really tough for me. Yeah. I wrote down probably like 5 or 6 games, and I was like,
really? Could
have been any of these. And I think from this conversation...
It's weird. I'm so strong. I'm like, my answer for this one was the first one I did. Really? I'm so...
I definitely went from oldest to newest. And but I think from having the conversations we've been having, I've decided on mine. And I'm going to go with Overwatch.
Interesting.
As my answer, yeah. I think that what that game has done in a cultural standpoint, how they've really pushed the boundaries of every character is a different ethnicity. Has
That's a
background.
good example of we'll see in a
Yeah.
couple of years if Overwatch.
I think the fact that it's competitive online across every platform. I think that it's also very heavily said that it's huge in esports right now. I think it's huge to say that it was a dead game. That was a dead Blizzard game. That
it was an MMO.
Yeah, that they revived and refreshed and rebooted as a competitive team shooter.
Yeah.
And it's huge, and it was the first one of its kind for their company. I just think that it did a lot. And I think the other thing that helped it was no one was expecting that game. No one expected Overwatch to come out and just take over like it did, and I think that says a lot for it.
Interesting.
Other good things that help his cause, not that I need to argue for him. You talk about like what's big in gaming right now. Being on Twitch, it's all over Twitch. Esports, which is, probably this 8th generation. It was kind of talked about in the one before, but not really. But now people have like leagues, they have compensation, they have like health benefits, all this stuff for playing. You're importing people from across the country, so there's another big one there. Online, obviously, is still the major, I guess, crux of this generation. You talk about social stuff that they bring into the game. Some games do a little too much social commentary. Some games just like, nah, man, I'll stay away from that. This game kind of balances it pretty nicely. Probably a little too much if I had to guess one side or the other.
Butt.
Yeah.
I like in Overwatch how you can put
never
up
buying that
stickers, and if you're Winston, you can put up a peanut butter sticker. I like that.
But like you said, it's on every major console that's not the Switch. And yeah, it's just kind of all over the place sort of thing. So yeah, that's a pretty good answer. Mine was more of a wish list sort of thing because we're still in the middle of it, so who knows.
For sure.
I would like for this answer to be Witcher 3.
Actually, that was one of the ones I put down. So
because hopefully what it's going to do for the RPG genre, because up until now, at least a Western RPG
really?
genre.
You didn't pick Zelda. I thought you'd pick Breath of the Wild. Interesting.
It doesn't do anything new. But
That's
but as far as Western RPGs go, I'm hoping that since now up until this Generation 7, we kind of got into basically the mud, I guess, with this genre where, okay, yeah, there's some side quests I don't really care about doing. There's a bunch of throwaway characters I don't really care about. Cutscenes are still kind of here and there sort of thing. Like this one's more cinematic. This one's more every single minute of this game matters, whether you play for 60 hours or 200 hours. And a lot of the elements as far as CD Projekt Red isn't Epic. It isn't, Final Fantasy Studios. It isn't any of these other groups where you expect like, oh, here's the big AAA game that's going to blow everyone's socks off sort of thing. This was really, I won't call them indie by any stretch of the imagination, but they were small. So rising up, and this is kind of like, sort of the dream of some of these indie developers is just getting that huge hit and then catapulting them into, maybe
AAA
a bit of
status.
maybe a bit of stardom. Because now everyone's going, oh, with the Cyberpunk 2077, whatever the year is, I can't wait for this. Whereas 3 years ago, it was still talked about as being a game, but no one was really just like dying for it. But I'm also hoping that it just revolutionizes the way stories are told, because at least nowadays everyone's doing the Game of Thrones or whatever TV show. But now a lot of people are going, man, that story was just as good as anything or better than anything I'm watching on the big screen or TV in front of me. So I'm hoping this generation is the one that kind of overthrows TV and movies for the most part. I think statistically they're pretty comparable, but I hope like now that we started at the beginning where video games are for little boys and girls to
we were at Pac-Man on the Atari for some reason.
Whereas now I'm hoping that video
we're playing
games
that. That's what we're doing when we go downstairs. I'm making you play Pac-Man on the Atari. Pay for your sins.
I'm hoping that this is one of the games that pushes, as far as narratives and storytelling, that it pushes it past movies.
To just double comment on that, the reason why I even considered Witcher in my list was because there were so many people that I knew had played video games, but weren't like, I wouldn't say really, really into video games. Like they've played video games here and there, and they would be like, yeah, I've played 150, 200 hours in Witcher 3, and I was like, what? Why? I would never have guessed you would ever do that. And it kind of enlightened me out that, like, it kind of got people into video games, because I think that game is just so well viewed graphically, and they have so much to do, and it lets people really dive in head first. And I think that's definitely the game that did that the most.
It's hard to navigate through the Reddits and the internet gaming sites without at least seeing snippets of it somewhere, whether it's, hey, this is what I'm playing this weekend, or hey, we're still talking about this game, sort of thing. So it's still popping up everywhere. But like I said, it's more of a long shot wish list sort of thing. I hope this defines our generation.
What do you got for us, Kevin?
Yeah, Overwatch, an interesting choice. Actually,
I didn't think about that.
I didn't think
Once
about
again,
that, but I still think my answer is Destiny. Destiny started games as service. It's what everybody's copying now. The Division is now like this. The Ghost Recons, all these, what's that Rainbow Six game? Siege. Like all these games that are now, we're not a game that it's literally the opposite of The Witcher.
Yeah.
We're not a game that you purchase now and you play and you have fun. We are a service that you keep coming back to. We update, we have this expansion, this new raid, these new characters. You're going in with your fire team. You're doing these things. Destiny just happened to be the first one that worked, and it has been copied infinitely this generation already. I think that that's going to continue into the next. In fact, I think that soon another huge company is going to. Oh, we have it with BioWare doing the same. There it is. It already happened. So, like, as soon as I saw this, I thought Destiny almost instantly, just because of the influence it's already had.
Yeah.
Well, it's also mirroring the Netflixes, the Hulus, and all that stuff too.
Yeah, like this, Witcher technically does this too, and so does Overwatch. This is the only game you need.
Mm-hmm.
Witcher for a different reason, but Overwatch for the same reason. This is the only game you need. You just keep coming back to our game. We'll have new updates.
New things every week.
Witcher,
and even
because
though
it
I
takes
think
a lifetime to beat.
Even though I think Destiny is kind of a bad example of it, because even though people love that game, like people still up until Destiny 2 were playing it like crazy. Their numbers were great, but even though I think that wasn't like great to me personally, in fact, I don't really care for any of these games. I think Destiny is the one that, when we look in 10 years and we look back, I think Destiny is going to be the thing people really do.
When we're looking back and saying, why don't we have full games released anymore?
Basically. Yeah, we're like, oh, we get a full game every like 7 years. We get one from Rockstar. And we get one from CD Projekt Red every like 8 years, and that's it. And then
we used to get them from BioWare, but we'll skip that topic.
Yeah, so my choice is Destiny.
So how are we gonna break this stalemate?
I don't think you can pick a winner of this one unless we come back in a few years. But like I said,
I mean, that's unless anybody is
his is more of a trend thing.
Persuaded.
Yeah, his is kind of a trend thing. Like it's matching what movies will probably go to, but like Netflix, what that's doing, Hulu.
But
and
it's
all
also
that,
possible Destiny 3 comes out, totally botches the whole thing, and no one does it again because they fucked it up. Like that's a total possibility.
That's sort of why stuff like Rock Band and Guitar Hero didn't make it onto my list.
Oh yeah, that's a good
even though those would be solid contenders, is because they finally hit that point where they made too many.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater
just botched it.
Like Tony Hawk, they became negative. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. They became the villain. Like, nobody wants you, Rock Band. Go away.
Like it crashed and burned instead of just like kind of easing into obscurity, which, a lot of the franchises do.
Yeah, the only one of these that I think survived that is Halo. I think Halo's on its way, but I also think that since it's a different team doing it and everything, they have, you can always say the Bungie Halo trilogy.
Yeah,
they
Bungie
have that
Halo trilogy and everything else
locked.
Halo are two completely different categories for me.
So we just gonna leave it at a deadlock.
Well, yeah, it's not over. So there could be a game.
I'm okay with that.
We will see in next generation who won.
Yeah, so let us know, or you could break the deadlock if you want. Which one do you think? Do you think it's Destiny? Do you think it's Overwatch? Do you think it's Witcher 3?
World's End likes Witcher, so my chances are
your
rising.
chances are up there. And let us know what you would have picked for everything, all those console generations. It's a good question. I like that question a lot. I want to start doing more things like this on the show where we have one more central topic that we can kind of discuss, because I really liked the Vita 3DS Switch thing from last week, and I wanted to bring something else. Yeah, I wanted to bring something else that we could kind of each put our opinions into, and blah 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 blah. Let's just move into the releases and end the show. So I only have 3 releases because I'm going to a site that doesn't list absolutely everything, and they're pretty major, so that's okay.
There's only 2 that matter, so.
I will fight you. October 10th, for PS4, Xbox One, PC, we have Middle-earth: Shadow of War.
Getting it.
Yeah, the game's getting great reviews from critics. Game's getting critical analysis from just YouTubers and stuff who are not happy with the microtransactions that they feel like are forced upon you in this game.
That's the thing that's telling to me, though. Like, if it was any average game and it had this obviously huge glaring flaw that, I'm not going to ignore even though I'm getting it, if that's what tanked the game as far as score and feedback and stuff like that, then I would be like, okay, maybe I need to get a different game. Or wait for some complete edition or whatever. But the fact that it's still
it has these, and it's got the good
high
scores.
80s and the low 90s, and some crazy people are putting it way above 90. But it still has that. Then it makes me feel like, okay, A, these people are maybe whining a little too much. B, that it's just not a big deal, or you don't suffer from not having the top tier orc or whatever.
See, I've heard that this is what I've gathered from. I heard that you do, but the game is, it's bigger and it's longer and everything. So the average person won't stumble upon these problems because, like, I forget the percentage of people that finish games. It's like 2%, something like that actually
really
play through a game. So like the average person isn't going to encounter the end game problem where to get the true ending you need to grind, and you would be buying loot boxes to get these characters on your team.
Most people are more.
And I'm not educated enough.
Most people seem more than fine with either watching their favorite streamer do it or just beating the game, being like, oh, I wonder what the true ending was. I didn't want to pay the $5 to get it, and then YouTube.
Yeah,
true ending.
And like, I just want to side tangent, but point out that like the streaming and stuff does help games. Like I played the entire What Remains of Edith Finch, which is a game I really liked this year, to my niece, and I let her play through the entire game, and she bought that game last week to play through it again. It does help. She literally played through it on my account and then bought it. That's pretty cool. Next up, Evil Within 2, October 13th, PS4, Xbox One, PC. I'm more and more curious about this game.
Played the first one?
No, I have not.
I haven't played the first one either, but I'm tempted to.
Yeah, I'm more and more interested about this game. These huge games, I almost never buy them at launch because they always plummet in price because so many people buy them. Like, you can buy Destiny now for $1, literally. The only game that is super popular, sold millions of copies, and has not plummeted in price is Witcher 3. That is the only game I consistently cannot find for cheap. Every other game, South Park, Stickature, all these games that sold crazy, you can find for $5 or less.
And every Nintendo game in Generations 3 and 4.
Sure. But yeah, I think, well, I was more talking about like third parties.
I definitely settled and just gave in and bought Witcher 3 for like $30 because it was
that's like the cheapest I've ever seen it for is $25, and I was like highly considering it because I'm like, man, that's
this is the only chance.
It's a good deal for
well,
this game.
and people who are super interested in playing it, not just like what's this game about? Sort of like I did with The Last of Us when it was getting all this hype, and it was number one as far as most awards won and all that stuff. That I was like, okay, I guess I got to play it. That's sort of where you're at with this game.
I think the thing is it is so big that people have a false sense of they're gonna do more stuff in it, and they don't trade it. They don't trade it in because they're like, one day I'll do everything. They're like,
well, there's that, and there's also probably the people that are like, if I can actually get 250 hours out of this, I don't mind paying $30. Whereas some games, you like, I can get 6 hours of enjoyment out of this. I've got to pay $30. Maybe that helps it too. But yeah, it should drop in price.
Yeah.
And the third game is
Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th comes out physical. It comes with a special skin. It's just the regular Jason, just a new skin, some new counselor clothes, things like that. But that's it.
We made it.
We did. I heard the camera die, but I'm just going to let it roll because I don't care. So thank you for being here. Craig?
No problem.
Thank you for being here. So you wave at the camera. Thank you for being here.
Goodbye, everybody.
Rest in peace, camera.
Thank you for watching. We'll speak with you next time.